one observation there, though, of course, the precious metals prices have taken off, the uranium price has taken off. So we've seen all of those juniors perform pretty well and outperform copper juniors and copper explorers to some extent. So copper are the laggards, and I think that's what happens in this next part of the cycle. And I think that this will be, given that it's such a huge demand situation set up, that this will be and offset against, a very, very seriously constrained supply side, that this will be the boom to end all booms. So hold on to your hats, write a lot of checks, get in the market. I've pushed my chips all in. Now, just on the copper, some of you might remember, I think it was a year ago I was here and I was thanking Leonardo DiCaprio for flying his jet down to Panama and getting 20,000 people fired from the Cobre Panama. A good, safe jobs there. Thank you, Leo. That reduced the global copper production by about 3% in one day. That was responsible for driving the copper price from $3.10 to about $4.60 where it is today, Trump tweets aside. Now, this is, this week just gone on Monday, we found out that Grasberg, I think, which is the fifth biggest copper mine, or maybe the fourth biggest copper mine, it's one of the sort of granddaddies of them all, owned by Rio Tinto and Freeport. They now announced a block cave failure, and that's going to take another 2 to 3% out of the copper market. You've got problems. If Robert's got problems there at Kakula Kamoa, that's taken 1% or so out of the market as well. And then I heard on the weekend from a very senior Chilean statesman of the mining industry that Codelco's obfuscating around the fact that they've got massive problems at El Teniente as well. So, you've seen 5% of the copper supply come out of the market in recent weeks. Last time round we saw that drive the copper price up 50% last year with Cobre Panama coming offline. This time round, I wouldn't be surprised if we see $7 or $8 per pound copper by the back end of this year. So hold on to your hats. We're going to catch up, Jeff, us copper laggards to our friends in precious metals. Now that's all important. When I start into this presentation, there will be forward-looking statements, I can guarantee you that. We've got a lot of copper, and that's going to be important, and I think you're going to see all of us, all copper, all us laggards start to move up the team there. Mike Connett, of course, CEO, founder of Vizsla Silver, with myself, Simon Smirlek, Steve Blower, very important in this because Steve's just made a discovery. We're in a fantastic location. British Columbia gets a bad rap, of course. It's very much unjustified. I don't know whether any of you caught David Ebby's response to the Globe and Mail yesterday and their article about the Anglo-Tech merger and why would Anglo executives want to come to Vancouver whilst we do have great weather, as we're seeing today. And thank you all for coming out on a Saturday. People will be thrilled that Anglo is moving its headquarters here. BC is a great place to be. We were at Beaver Creek 2 weeks ago, the big conference. I'd encourage you all to get there. I think it's probably the sort of best global conference of the year. You see everyone that you need to see. Jagrup Brar, the minister, BC Mines Minister, who I've got to know pretty well, was there at that conference, walking around and listening to anyone who would talk to him and taking notes and sending emails, responding to challenges that people have got. BC's firmly open for business. We've seen things like Artemis, Stephen Dean's mine permitted there. That's gone from $1 billion to $6 billion. Skeena, we expect to have our permits by year end at Eskay Creek. It's open for business. It's a fantastic place to operate. We're in a great location. Our Wood Jam property and Red Gold there, right next door. We've got a big copper resource right next door to Imperial's Mount Polly mine. I'll come back to that because that's important. And then our Poplar project just off the highway there at Houston, again, right next door to Imperial's Huckleberry mine. Fantastic location, great place to operate. We can operate year round on all of those projects. A lot of copper. You've got to have a lot of copper right now, and we do. We've got 4 billion pounds in resources, nearly 2 million ounces of gold. That's growing all the time, and I'd point you to the second line. I'm sorry, that's a lot of numbers there, but you can see at our Deerhorn deposit, we've got about 33 million tonnes at 0.7% copper, really, really good grade. That's above the global mined head grade of copper around the world. But that's not the exciting part. That underpins the value of the company very strongly. That copper is worth a heck of a lot more than where we're trading today. the exciting part is our new discovery. Now, Jeff, you know, I started porphyry copper exploration. I lived in Antofagasta in 2002 with Rio Tinto. I've been exploring for porphyry systems for 23 years now, and until the other day, my track record was unblemished by success. So I'm very excited with what's happening with the company at the moment. We bought this project for $2.7 million back in March last year. We bought it for the Poplar deposit, big resource base, discovered in the mid-70s by Utah Copper. But we saw that big pink anomaly that you can see down there. I don't know whether I can point here, but yep, that massive thing there. It's about 8 kilometres east-west, 4 kilometres north-south, and you can see that donut hole right in the middle of it. That's what you want to see when you're exploring for porphyries. We got on the ground, went out there, and we were astonished with what we saw. It's a big alteration zone. You're seeing a gillic alteration across that entire area. We then did geophysics. We did soil geochemistry across that dot. We had a drill rig out there a couple of months later, and we drilled 145 metres at 0.43% copper, essentially from surface. Great discovery. What came next makes it even more exciting. Just a little bit about the property though, before we get on to that. We're just south of Houston, this major road that runs down to Huckleberry's mine, grid power across the property. And you can see that road to Huckleberry is right next door to our discovery there. So you couldn't get a better location for a project. It's low, flat land. We can operate year round. And very importantly, it's a shallow discovery on that road to Huckleberry. So we're, you know, very, very well set up in terms of infrastructure and access to the project and property. And what did we find? Well, the discovery hole there, you can see 38. 138, 345 metres at 0.43. That's within 500 metres at just below 0.4% copper, and importantly close to surface. You can see some of these other results we've been putting out. Now the important thing here is it outcrops. There's great access. There's that road to Huckleberry just nearby, and the target is about 1 kilometre across by 800 metres north-south. We've now drilled over 800 metres east-west by 400 metres north-south, and we haven't found the edge of this thing. Now, you know, it doesn't take a mathematician to calculate some numbers around that, but suffice to say, I think this is going to be very, very big, you know, potentially plus 500 million tonnes. We've got a lot of work to do, a lot of drilling to do to get to that point and understand that, but we're excited by what we see, and it could even be bigger than that. You know, there are some big, big systems here, you know, Surge Copper, I see Leif's here. They've got 1 billion tonnes of ore there at their Berg property, which is not far away. You've got Gibraltar and other major mines around there that multiple billion-tonne type systems. Could that be here? I think so, absolutely, and we'll be drilling to prove that up in the not-too-distant future. A little bit of a cross-section there that just demonstrates the grade and scale. You can see those magenta zones, higher-grade copper, sort of 0.4%, 0.3% plus, all from surface. Very big system, as I say, 800 metres east, 800 kilometres, that'd be all right, wouldn't it? 800 kilometres east-west by 400 metres north-south, and we've drilled it down to 500 metres so far, but it's completely open, so it's going to be a big one, Jeff. Absolute monster, and you've got beautiful textures there as a geologist, you know, a bit of geology porn there. You've got classic veining, classic A, B, C and D type veining. You've got C type veining, very intensely potassically altered, good looking rocks full of copper. One last thing I'll touch on, you know, we think that in that big alteration zone, if I back it up there, that area there is probably hiding. It'd be very, very unusual to have that much alteration provided by or developed by one porphyry centre. So we think there are probably others there, and we're out there looking for those at the moment. And we saw some good news over the weekend where we've confirmed that alteration continues over that whole zone. So I think we'll make more discoveries to come over the time. And then Copperview, I'll just touch on this. This is right next door to Kodiak's Gate Zone. That big structure, north-south structure, runs from Kodiak's Gate Zone on into our property, and you've got a major anomaly there that we've just completed IP along, and that's what it looks like. Classic bullseye. There's copper staining on those rocks. I think we're a chance of a discovery. We want to be on the ground later in the year there, and I hope that we'll be coming back to the next Metal Investor Forum to announce a further discovery in the not too distant future. So look out for all of that. A lot of copper. Go long copper right now. Thanks, Jeff.
Great.